All right, Hannah, welcome to
Thanks.
Faith in the Struggle. I've been trying to get you on for months, huh?
Yep.
For since we began, more
Yeah.
like a year.
Yep.
I think it's a really, really important topic as far as mental health in your struggle and what you have and continue to go through, and especially amongst, you're now are you 18? You're 18, right?
18.
You turned 18 in November. Birthday.
Spot on.
I should know your birthday. So heading off to college next year, and so this age range, but your struggle was really in high school and a little bit before that, right? So, what's your earliest remembrance of not just feeling a little anxious, like everybody has anxiety in their life, right? But really feeling like this doesn't seem like it's normal.
I think my earliest memory of like symptoms of anxiety was like elementary school, where I would wake up like before school and feel so sick, and like my stomach would hurt. And we went to the doctors, and I was young, so I was still in elementary school, like fourth or fifth grade. And so they didn't think it was anxiety. They didn't think the stomach aches were from anxiety. They just thought, oh, it's a
Right.
dietary thing. So I tried to go gluten-free. I tried to go dairy-free, and all these things never helped. And every day I would wake up with just this horrible stomach ache, and I did not know why. And that's probably the first kind of memory of like, this isn't how normal kids feel every day before school. And then I think same time, like in that elementary school, I remember a specific instance of being at the mall with my family, and for some reason my like first real anxiety was about money, like money in our family, which is such an odd thing for a young kid, like a 10-year-old, to worry about. Because my parents never talked about struggling with money.
Right.
It was never an issue, but in my brain I had created this idea that we are struggling with money and I'm a burden on our family. And so I need to do something about it. So I remember being at the mall and going out to dinner, and I would refuse to order a soda because it costed extra money. And I remember the water at that restaurant was so gross, and my parents like begging me to like, Hannah, it's okay. It's $2. We don't care. And me being like, no, I will cause this huge burden and this guilt of I cannot make my parents spend money. And like that always following me like around, and everything I thought about was like, I can't make my parents suffer.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like you said, it's not like they were always yelling at you about money or something triggered that. It's
No.
it's almost like your anxiety's trying to find something to be anxious about.
100%. Like throughout, like I think all my like younger years of having anxiety and really not understanding like this is anxiety, I was just like, why am I so worried about money or my parents losing their job? There was never any foundation for me to worry about those things.
Yeah.
My parents never talked about, oh, I might lose my job or whatever. My parents both had stable jobs. But every day they would come home, and if I saw that they would kind of have a different look on their face, or if they were talking about something and I wasn't included, I would immediately, my brain would be like, they lost their job, we're gonna lose the house, we're gonna all
Wow.
suffer. And like that was
Did you ever vocalize? I mean, you've obviously vocalized the money thing, but that to that degree to your parents, like, I'm afraid you're going to lose your job, or were you just like, that's too weird, I'm not talking about it?
no, I don't. I think maybe I mentioned it. Like I would always ask them, "Oh, is something wrong? Is something wrong?" And they would just kind of laugh it off because
Yeah.
it was. I'm so young with no reason to worry about that, and I don't blame them for that.
Right.
But it was just like kind of so absurd for a young kid to be making all of these scenarios up. And so I think I felt, that it was just crazy of me to think that. So I didn't vocalize it a
Yeah.
ton to anybody.
So when you had like the stomach issues, do you remember being anxious about school, like anything specific, or or so you were even confused as to why you were not feeling well?
Yeah, I think, and I still struggle where I just call them anxiety days or anxious days, where I'll wake up and for no reason at all, there will be no situation that could cause me any stress or anxiety or whatever, and I will wake up with this horrible feeling of dread, and that also it translates a lot physically, for stomach issues, like I'll loss of an appetite, I won't be able to eat, or just shaky. And that started since very young, where no, I wouldn't have any problems at school. Like I struggled a little bit with reading and like dyslexia when I was younger, but that was never really I think it was just something I dealt with, but like I didn't have a teacher who caused an issue or kids. It was just I wake up in this feeling of dread for no reason. And that was always really confusing as a kid, because nobody else in my grade or none of my friends would talk about that, because nobody was really feeling that.
If they were feeling it, they weren't talking about it either.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you think about regular anxiety. For me, it's like sometimes I'll have physical manifestations of that. Stomach's upset, but I know why. I'm like, I got this big thing I got to do, or I got something I'm worried about, or whatever. And then, it manifests itself physically. It must have been so confusing to when you're like, I don't know. There's not like some specific test or fight with a friend. I'm sure you had those things, but it was just, I must be sick. Yeah. When was it, I guess, figured out that, oh, that's anxiety? Was it not till you were more like
Yeah, probably once I got to high school, when I was able to, I think, vocalize how I was feeling a little bit more to my parents, and like getting older, I think they realized some of it might be mental health, and it wasn't just like me not understanding things, or like, I always had a good imagination as a kid. I think as I got into like my more teen years, it wasn't just like my imagination. So that's when my freshman year, I saw a doctor, and I got diagnosed with like a generalized anxiety disorder. Okay.
And you got put on medication for that?
Yep. So they started me like with a therapist, and they also, I saw a psychiatrist, and I got put on medication.
So how did you, this is around your freshman year, how did you reconcile, or did you even bother with like, your faith in the Lord and this happening to you? Was it confusing? Were you like, why am I going through this? Or were you just like, wow, this is just another thing that people go through?
Yeah, I think like growing up in the church, like I was always told like, God's got you. God has a plan for you. And so I'm grateful, like growing up with having anxiety and not really understanding a lot of my feelings. I also had the background of, but I know God has a plan for me, and I know he will protect me. And like, just when you're young, you're told mostly about just God's love and how much he loves his children. And so I always felt like I knew he was there. But I also was told, like, when you ask for things, God will, take it away. Or like, if you pray, God will try to help you. Like, God's the one to help you. And so since I felt those feelings, I was either praying, or my parents were praying for me. Like when I would come to my parents with like being really anxious, their first move was to pray for me. So for so long I did, and then kind of getting older with some more new influences and like finding your own way, I kind of wondered, I was like, I've prayed for God to take this away my whole life, and I'm still struggling with it. And so I think my freshman year is when I started to, I think, doubt God a little bit, and kind of maturing. Instead of thinking, oh, God's always got me, God's always got a plan for me, I was like, why is this God's plan for me? And does God really have me? Because he's never taken away this thing that's hurt me so much.
And is that something you ever vocalized with anyone, or did you just kind of?
Not until things got really bad, like right before the hospitalization and afterward. I remember being very angry with God, and I told my parents that, and I think I remember even sitting down with you. Yeah, I remember that. And feeling very confused and hurt by him.
Did the anxiety ramp up between, this was what, your sophomore year?
Yeah, so I started on medication November 17th, my birthday of my freshman year. I remember feeling like, this is it. I'm going to be fixed. Like, I was so hopeful. And then after, about a year, so my summer after my freshman year, going into my sophomore year is when things got really bad. And not only the anxiety, but the depression crept in.
So the medication didn't help, or did it help somewhat?
Yeah, it helped. I actually tried a few different medications. So I started one, and it helped for a little while, and I was kind of doing better. And then it didn't make me feel so great. I was kind of like not having motivation to shower, and like just things that were not me, like not cleaning my room. And so I switched the medication, because we're told, like when I started the medication, I was talked a lot with my therapist about the black box warning, where this is a mental health medication, it's an antidepressant, but there is a side effect where this can cause suicidal ideations or wanting to harm yourself. So
leading up to that, the depression wasn't really an issue.
No, it was always anxiety.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you think to some degree the medication might have brought on some depression. What was that like, the depression?
So after I switched medications, things were good for a while, for a couple months. And then right in the summer after my freshman year, I had a few issues with friends. I had a pretty solid friend group and like good relationships my freshman year. And then that summer, a lot of it kind of fell apart. And I think that where I felt really alone, and I felt like I did something to lose all those friends, and I felt really guilty, mixed with the meds not really interacting right. That's when I really started to feel like I was not good enough, and that's when the self-harm started.
Okay.
Was like a starting into the summer.
What kind of self-harm?
I would cut. I found just razor blades, pretty much anything.
Is that something, because obviously it's, by now we all know plenty of people that have cut themselves and gone through that. So was it something that you kind of knew people had done that, or was it you just wanted to do that?
Yeah, I knew it was a thing.
Yeah.
But I couldn't fathom, like, when I heard about it earlier, doing that to myself. Like, why would you intentionally hurt yourself? Like, it hurts. It really does.
Yeah.
And you're making yourself bleed, and now you all these things you have to, these like scars and cuts that like bring attention to it. But I always kind of felt like people did it for attention.
Yeah.
Like before going through it, I was like, well, that's just because they want to show off that they're depressed or that they're something's wrong to like get help. And then when I started feeling those feelings of, you're not worthy, you're a bad person, everyone hates you, your life is meaningless, I felt like I had to punish myself in some way. And that is what I think, remembering people talk about that and people doing that, I was like, oh,
that must be what you do.
That's what you do. Yeah, like that's the next step.
Do you remember the first time that you were like, I'm going to do this? What was that? Where did you cut yourself? Did you like hide it?
Yeah, it was on like the inside of my thighs, so a place that nobody sees.
Yep.
Like I could even wear shorts and you wouldn't see it. It was high up.
To cut that, but still painful.
It was, it was less painful than my wrists. Which I started eventually doing. And I remember starting, it was like lightly, kind of like trying it out.
Yeah.
And then like it would always be like in the shower, so it was easy to kind of wash away like the blood and everything.
And did you feel like it did anything for you? Did it help momentarily? Like, oh, okay, I punished myself.
It was like I proved to myself like I was depressed. Like it was like an actual showing of, you're really struggling. But then I felt like I had to hide it. It was never like, I always thought people did it for attention, but then I would do everything in my power to not let anybody know.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a weird thing where I would like be like, no, you're doing this for attention. You're doing this for attention. And then when I would actually do it to myself, I would do I would try to hide it. And I still don't really know the reason. Like, it didn't make me feel good. It made me feel guilty, and I hated looking at them. But it became a habit.
How often once you were in it?
Pretty much every time I saw them start to fade, like if things were starting to heal, I would feel like I just needed to prove myself again. And that's when I started on my wrists, which hurt worse, and they scarred worse too. And even for
Also more dangerous too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was that why you went on your wrist? Because you were like, you'd heard slitting your wrists is actually a...
I never cut to try to bleed out. It was just like something to do to like harm myself a little bit and make myself feel just a little bit more depressed. Like I kind of, when you feel that way, it almost feels nice to like fall deeper into it. Like when you're in that such a dark space, you want to do more to make you feel that way, and you get kind of like addicted to that sadness and that darkness. And like,
why do you think that is? I know you're not a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
But you've lived through it, so.
I think it's I've talked to many therapists about it, and it is like a pattern in your brain where like once you do it once and you feel those feelings, it becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And and that's what it felt like. It almost felt like, all right, I'm sad. I feel like I am a bad person. Like I don't deserve it. And so the next thing you do is you self-harm. And it became like a routine almost.
Yeah. Why did you think you went? Because I mean, you go to your wrists. You knew that would probably be seen. Was that part of it? Do you think, or because there's other places on your body? I'm sure you could have still hidden it.
I think I didn't want the actual cuts to be visible, but I wanted the aftermath to be. I wanted those scars. Like I think it showed people like I've gone through something.
And why do you think that was so important to you? That you felt like you had to validate your depression almost?
I think because I was so young.
Yeah.
I mean, I was 15 at the time, and
we have to validate everything when we're 15.
yes. Yeah. Obviously very insecure, wanting people to know how I felt. And I think growing up with anxiety, like being very young and some of that being pushed off as kind of a joke or my imagination, I needed something. And now I was feeling the depression, and I could physically kind of show signs of that.
Yeah.
And so I wanted people to, see a physical way that I've gone through something.
And did people, like your parents, see that and notice it, or did it take a while for them to be like, wait a minute, what's going on with that?
Yeah, it took a while. I think a couple friends noticed.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're also 15. Like, what are they supposed to do? They would tell me, no, don't do that, or please stop. But they're, they're not. I remember my mom, she did not see the cuts, but she found a towel that was covered in blood that I had used I stuffed it in the back of the closet. And I remember her coming in. And I think she knew, by the time she knew I was feeling depressed and not in a good headspace, but that was really shocking for her. And I've talked to my parents about that and like how that felt for them, but I remember her coming in and being like, what is going on? Like, this is a lot more serious than we thought.
Is this all still the summer between freshman and sophomore year?
This was before the hospitalization.
It ramped up pretty quickly with that.
Yeah.
But how long were you doing that before the hospitalization piece of your story? How was it, like a month that you were doing this?
I remember it started because I do remember I was running. It was probably in the spring I started
You're still in school. Yeah.
I was running track and we had spandex, and I remember being really worried that during my race, my spandex would ride up and people would see like Band-Aids around my thighs and stuff.
Yeah.
And again, that's that piece of, I think I'm doing this for attention, but then I'm so worried that these people watching a race would notice that. So yeah, it was probably like 2 or 3 months before my parents kind of found out.
It almost sounds like you're doing it for your own attention. Like you're trying to validate it to yourself in a way that I deserve I don't know. I don't know what you felt like you deserved to be sad, or you were depressed and it wasn't just in your mind.
Yeah.
You were probably just all over the place with that during
Yeah.
that time.
I mean, like, it was a lot of different emotions, but I think
Yeah.
a lot of it was like, yeah, proving
Yeah.
to somebody, to myself, to anybody, if they happen to see that this is real. I'm not making up. I'm not making this up for attention. Like, I really am struggling.
What do you think? Again, you're not a doctor or a professional, but I think your struggle that you've been through gives you some validation to have an opinion on this. If a parent or somebody is suddenly in the place of their, like your parents were, and they notice something, even if it's a little cut or something, what do you think the best thing is for them to do?
I think even if it's a question, ask them about it.
Yeah.
Even if your kid is like, "Oh, I brushed up against some thorns and I I got to cut," like dive deeper into that.
What
And
thorns? Where were
yes,
you?
and just like, okay, I believe you, but is there anything else you want to talk about? Like, you don't have to really be like, "Why did you do this?" I think when my parents first found out, I was embarrassed, and I was like,
course.
"Whoa, this is now affecting them." And so I think coming to your kid gently and being like, "I'm worried for you. I want to help you." Like, not being angry. I think my parents, they weren't angry, but they were startled. And
Yeah.
so they were
Yeah.
upset, and they were like, "What is this? What's going on?" So I felt defensive.
Well, you're dealing with anxiety and depression, so you're not in a headspace to think through that dynamic in a correct way.
Yeah.
You're just going to heap more shame on yourself. Now I've upset them, and that's just yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that definitely made me feel worse. Like, no fault to them. They didn't know what to do.
No, and that's pretty shocking if you don't really know something. I mean,
Is
obviously they knew you were dealing with anxiety with the meds and everything, but all of a sudden there's bloody dolls.
Yeah, so I think going to your kid and just being like, "I want to help you. I'm not mad at you. I just want to know what's going on."
I think too, one of the reasons they're shocked, and I think this is very important for adults to know, is that you grew up in a stable home, loving parents, family, good school, yeah, friend issues, but that's normal for a teenager, and that doesn't mean it's not hard. But it's not like you were living in an orphanage for 5 years, and so I think that's why it's like, wait a minute, why would you have these? But lots of people, not just your age, but that's our focus right now, still deal with that. And I think that's not to be like, well, why are you feeling anxious? That's not the right question.
Yeah, yes.
I guess is my point, is that don't immediately assume, well, this isn't a girl who has like a split home and has had to move 10 times or was abused in some way. Like, yeah, maybe that's their story, but maybe they're just dealing with this. Yeah. What was you may not really remember, but because you said leading into that, you were starting to feel kind of angry with God. Was that just escalating, or was there a distance there that you were like, just kind of push that side of your life out?
Yeah. I think it got worse when the depression got worse, and like when I really started to feel suicidal and like not wanting to be alive. Because growing up, and I think about this a lot, people always tell you God will never give you a battle like you can't handle. Like, God will never do that. And that was always a comfort to me, like in my anxiety, because I would have all of these situations I would make up in my head that would make me anxious, but I had that thought of like, but God will never give you something that you can't handle. But when the depression got really bad and those really scary and dark thoughts start to come in, I could not handle it. And so I thought God had abandoned me because this was this was a battle I could not handle. And God was putting me through it. And I remember just being, I am 15 years old and I want to die. And I am so unhappy with my life. Like, I want to take it away. And a thought that ran through my head was, how dare you How dare you put me through this? A lifetime of anxiety at a young age. And now this. Like, I just felt like things are only getting worse. They're not getting better. And I've prayed to God for so long to make them better.
Right.
So at that point was probably the most distant I felt from God.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of scriptures, there's a lot of Psalms where that's, where are you, God? Have you abandoned me? And that's just what you were going through.
Yep.
And it perpetuates itself, I'm sure, where you want to be sad, and now I'm sad and angry, and it's not like I'm like looking to get out of it. You're sinking deeper into it.
Yep. Yeah, I did not ever go to God and think he can help me. Like I was just like, I didn't want anything to do with him, basically.
Yeah. And yet you're still going to Christian school, going to church, doing all that. And it's like that. Did you just sort of just go through the motions during that time? Or was that like just make you feel even more ashamed because you're like, I should care, but I don't?
Yeah, I think I didn't even feel bad.
Yeah.
I was so angry and hardened. And I think my parents, they were so good about trying to bring God into it and saying, God will protect you and this is something he's letting you go through. But I didn't want to hear any of it. I was probably so mean to my parents when they were trying to say those things. And I just was like, nope, he would never let me go through this if he really loved me. Like, he would.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm sure that was heartbreaking for them to hear because I did have a strong faith before that.
Yeah, well, it was tested.
For sure.
What would you tell someone now who maybe is a similar situation to you? Not that they that they had a faith, but then it was like really, really tested. And you almost feel like, well, if I feel this way, then I must not actually have any faith. But that's not true, is it? What would you tell someone who's kind of going through it right now? Now, I know that the religious platitudes aren't helpful, but what would you say?
Yeah, I think especially it's hard when they're young. You don't want to, like, tell, like, these young, excited Christians that, like, oh, but God will also put you, like, he loves you and he'll protect you, but he'll put you through the worst things imaginable. And he'll let that happen for a reason.
Right.
But that wasn't really a discussion at that age. I was
you were
so
so young. Yeah.
No, people don't want to, tell somebody that, a kid, and rightfully so. You don't want to bog them down and make them have doubts that they're not already thinking. And so
yeah,
I think being raw and, like, God will put you through things that you feel like you can't handle. And you'll be angry at him, but I so regret not drawing close to him. I think we talk a lot about there's Christians when they go through trials, they either draw near to him or they pull away.
Yeah.
And in that, I pulled away immensely. And so I think fighting back on that, and just know, like, as much as you want to be angry at God and you want to be, feel like he doesn't love you, that's Satan, actually. And I think Grace put it in a really good perspective. After I had gone through that winter, we were at snow camp and we were just talking about certain things, and at night things get, like, deep, and we were talking, and it was probably the first time I had shared that, a couple months ago I was in a mental hospital, and I talked about, and I was still not okay with it. I was still angry at God, and I talked about that. And Grace shared something she was struggling with, and she said, but I have learned this is not to be angry at God, but be angry at Satan. This is Satan. And, like, that was something I just didn't think, like, I was just fixated on, this is because of God.
I need to put my anger somewhere.
Yes. And that was, like, I don't know, like, it could be a simple thing, but during that time that was mind-blowing to me, and being like, no, I need to be angry at Satan and hate him and want to, like, not get revenge, but, like, prove to him that you put me through this and whatever, and this evil and mental, like, anxiety, depression, like, that's those thoughts are from you. Like, those are from the devil. But pushing back on that and being like, but instead I will draw closer to God, and be angry at Satan.
Well,
Don't
that's
be angry at God.
I think that's great advice for someone. I think it's a little bit misleading when we get taught that God will never put us through something we can't handle. I've heard it better stated that he can't handle. We can't handle it. And so I think that's important for someone who might watch this and is going through something, maybe not as serious, but something like that where it's causing them to be like, well, I can't handle this. No, you can't. And that's okay. God, the promise is God will take care of you. God is going to, he wants, the idea for him isn't to see how much you can handle. It's for how much can you trust him through something that's unhandleable. That's not a word, but you know.
Yeah.
You know. So you started, how did that, before getting into the next stage of it, how did that anger of God manifest itself, do you think? Like even just in your life behaviors, choices, did you feel like it manifested in poor choices or?
Yeah. Not like, I don't think I was like really acting out, but I just was not thinking about God. Like it was selfish, and I was just in so much like self-pity and like kind of like this spiral of depression that I kind of wanted to keep going with. Like I got comfortable in that. And so yeah, I would sit in my bed and I would just cry for no reason, and I could not get up. And like it wasn't like I was out doing like crazy stuff, but it was just like sadness and like not crying out to him and just like letting myself be sad and letting myself be depressed and like not get up and not do anything and not read my Bible and not pray.
Not try to combat it.
No, I felt like I had given up.
Well, you were cutting yourself physically. Do you feel like any of that manifests itself in what we do in life that's gonna hurt you're trying to hurt yourself? So did you, not that you went out and drove a car 100 miles per hour but like, do you feel like where's that where you feel like you don't care, so you'll just do something? I don't care, I'm not thinking about God, I don't really care anyway, so I'll just do this whether it's right or not. But was there ever any choices, do you think, you make in life where you're just like, I hope this does hurt me because I want to be hurt?
I mean, yeah, I don't think I had a lot of regard for other people's feelings, like my friends. And I think that's, again, how I lost a lot of those friends that summer.
Yeah.
Of just, I don't really care if this offends you. I don't really care if this makes you feel hurt or uncomfortable. Like, I'm just going to do it because I want to. And it was kind of this idea of, like, if things got bad enough, I'm okay with just killing myself and it being over.
When did that, was that during, as you started to cut yourself, or did it kind of progress into wanting to end your own life?
Yeah, that definitely progressed. Like I didn't feel like that as soon as, I started cutting, and then I started cutting in like May, if I'll say like April, May, and then July was when like the real depression and those real like scary dark thoughts of not wanting to be alive and thinking about ways to make that happen.
What was that like? Was there moments where you're like, I shouldn't be thinking like this, or were you just full blown, I don't care?
I think it was like a full blown I don't care. There wasn't a lot of like, oh, my family. Like I think some people feel like, oh, I'm gonna leave my family behind, and like people think about that, and I wasn't like, oh, my parents are gonna be so sad, or my other family members. Like I was like, I'm feeling like this way, I cannot handle it, so I'm gonna do what's best for myself, like what I thought was best for myselse, and that was not alive.
I think it's an important conversation because I think we've obviously all known people who have ended their own life, known many, and you always want to ask them, you just can't. Like, I always thought about it as we all make decisions in life that we regret, and I think that's probably for most people, maybe not all, but most people who do that, if they could say, oh, I regret that, but you just can't. It's permanent, right? So, but it seems like, because you always like think to yourself, how can you do that to people? Like, don't you know how much that's going to hurt other people? But if you're that bad in depression and anxiety, you go down this like quicksand almost. Like you said, you can almost feed on the depression, and you're in a situation now where you can't even see out of it. You can't think in those clear ways. This is going to hurt others. It's really just fully selfish at that point because it's all you're thinking about.
Yeah, the best word to describe it is drowning. Like, yeah. I felt like I was drowning in my own thoughts, my own emotions, like, and there was no way out. Like, there was no seeing any other perspective.
And were you seeing a counselor at that point?
Yes. Yep. So I was seeing a therapist, and I didn't really tell her tons of stuff because I didn't even want the advice.
Right.
I didn't want her to tell my parents, first of all, because at that point, a therapist is a mandated reporter. So if I were telling them, like, I am hurting myself or I want to hurt myself, they would have to tell my parents, and I didn't want any of that help. So I would go through the motions of therapy and talk about some anxiety and the friend issues I was having, but I was not honest with them.
Yeah. Did your therapist have any inkling? Like, you feel like now looking back that they try to push on that or something?
Yeah. So there was one night in July where I struggle with calling it a suicide attempt because, like, I think even now, sometimes I feel like I like beat myself up, oh, you weren't that bad, or you weren't that depressed. And so I still kind of struggle with that, and I was so done. It was, again, like I felt like I was drowning. And so I did take a lot of just basically any sleeping aid I could find, pills, drinks, whatever, anything. And I was fine. I threw up. I was fine. I don't know kind of really what would have happened if I didn't make myself throw up. And that was like when you don't think about the people in your life and then you do that and all of a sudden you do.
Really?
All of a sudden when you really do, when I was finished taking whatever I could find.
It became real.
I was like, oh, and I started to not feel great. Like my stomach didn't feel good and I was like, oh no, I could have just stopped. Like what I'm doing right now is trying to kill myself.
Were you by yourself at home?
Yep. Well, I wasn't by myself. My parents, they were around, but I was in the bathroom, like locked. And I remember, feeling this like, oh no, what did I just do? And like that's when it really became serious. And so I threw up. I called a friend, and they said you need to throw up right now. So I did. And I told Sam, I remember going down and telling Sam because I didn't want, again, I still didn't want to tell my parents.
I love Sam, but I just can't imagine.
What is he going to do? That poor kid was probably like, oh no. So.
What did he do? So you got to tell mom and dad probably?
He didn't. And I don't blame him for that. Like, what is he supposed to do? And I probably told him not to.
I'm
because
sure.
At that point I did still.
Otherwise you would have went to them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember he sat in my room until I think he tried to make me laugh. Like he just kind of talked, kind of pretended like everything was normal. And I have no idea how he must have felt, I think he just waited there till I fell asleep until I was but then I remember telling my therapist about it. That was kind of the first inkling. I let them know that like something was wrong, and I remember being very vague and very kind of jokey about it and like not wanting it to seem as serious. And she said, no, you have to tell your mom or I'm going to. And I was like, shoot, I knew I shouldn't have said anything. But that's when
What was the medication at this point? Had they tried different things? Because I know you had at one point been on a variety of...
Oh, man.
Because like part of the hospitalization was getting off of...
So I was still on medication at that point. And that's when my therapist said this could be not only, have you had some situational stuff, but this could be like the black box warning. Like this could be, this is not normal for me. I did not ever feel those feelings of depression or wanting to harm myself or suicidal thoughts until I was on this medication. Like this is not normal. So that's when she thought that maybe I should talk to so I had a therapist and I had like a psychiatrist who prescribed my meds. And so I met with the therapist weekly, but the psychiatrist I had like every couple months, and she said, you need to talk to her about it. Like, this is an emergency. So I told my mom about the situation of what happened, and I don't really remember like what she said, but she said, yeah, we need to call your psychiatrist, and we need to have like an emergency meeting, basically, like the next available appointment.
Yeah.
Because obviously I think they realized
The meds weren't.
something's wrong.
Yeah. And then what happened? Did you have that meeting?
So, yep, it was in the middle of VBS. I remember telling Mrs. Bundy, I have a quick telehealth meeting. I'll be out in like 15 minutes. I'll be right back.
And you
Leave
never
the group.
returned.
And I was gone for a week. So, yeah, I remember my mom picked me up. It was like a telehealth, literally like a Zoom. It was kind of relaxed. Like, it didn't seem like a big deal. And then I had to tell I think my psychiatrist knew what happened. My therapist had contacted her, I assume. And so she had to ask me like some serious questions of like, you have to be honest about this. And she asked me like, would you do it again? Like, are you thinking about harming yourself to that extent again, or trying to take your own life? And I remember wanting to lie so bad because I was scared to what was going to come next. And this is when it was all feeling like really real, because other people were getting involved. Because like for months, it was kind of just myself and my own issues. But then like my doctors knew, and my mom was sitting right there. And I said, at this point, I would try again. And I remember having a list of people I wanted to say bye to. Like I was gonna write notes. Like this one felt a little bit more real, of like an official kind of suicide attempt. So I remember saying, no, I would try it again. And she said, do you have like these kind of questions I'm sure they're supposed to ask, were like, do you have an idea of who you were gonna say bye to? And I said yes. And she said, this is an emergency, and you need to be in a place that can keep you safe at all times. And that's when she brought up the idea of going to the hospital and being admitted for mental health reasons. And I did not want to go. I remember freaking out and saying no. I felt like she had betrayed me, like my psychiatrist, that she was now sending me away. I felt like my parents had betrayed me. And just being so scared of like what was to come.
And they brought you what? Just like Milford at first?
Yep. So I remember getting off the phone with the psychiatrist and being hysterical, like kicking and screaming, like, you can't make me go. And like, I remember my dad, like I was on the couch, like writhing around, like being like, no, you cannot make me go. And my dad, like, being there and being like, you have to do this. And I don't even remember what he said, but it was like the one thing to calm me down. And I think that was like God speaking through him, being like, no, it's okay. Like, I'm going to be with you. And as scared as you are, and like you have no idea what's to come, I'm going to be with you. So yeah, we drove to Milford. I was admitted into the psych unit. I had these nice green scrubs on.
TVs behind glass and everything.
I was in like a metal room. Like it was like I was like, wow, they are treating me like I'm, like I hate to, like a crazy person. Like they're treating me like I have some real mental issues. And I did, obviously, at that point. I know there's lots of protocol they had to do. Like I couldn't have my phone. I couldn't have any bracelets, nothing. I couldn't even, they took away my baby blankets, which was a huge thing because I was like, what do you mean? I can't even be trusted with my own baby blankets that I use for comfort. Yeah. Like, I remember that being a big, like, what did you do? Like, what's going on?
Do you, does it cause you to look at crazy people differently now?
Oh, yeah. And, like, saying, like, a mental hospital, like, that's a word that kind of people
Yeah.
think of like straight jackets and like, real. And I think it's just given me being in one and being one of those people and meeting other people like has given me so much like empathy and insight on like it, like they're not, don't be scared of, they're just people and they're struggling. Like, again, me coming from an amazing home, like involved in the church, great friends, played sports, did well in school, like, and I was in there, you know, like it could be anyone. And so,
Don't put that stigma on somebody.
Yes, exactly. Like I don't think I'll ever judge someone for that ever. Like I just can't. Like there's like I just all I have is like love for them.
Yeah, it's like anything else you go through, I suppose. You know. Are you how long did you stay at Milford before they admitted you to
Just one night.
And what was that night like?
I was so scared. Like so scared. I remember my
Scared of what? Where you were gonna go? What was
like and that's when it really just felt real. Like because for you know when you're in your house and you're saying these things and feeling these feelings, it just is it all in your head. And now it's like there's like a medical report. Like I have this in my chart, and like I'm in a place like I'm taking up a spot that's reserved for these type of people. Like I am needing this, and I think. Again, so I had my psychiatrist tell me over the phone, yes, you need to go to the hospital. And then I had another person evaluate me, a doctor there. And then being like, yes, I agree. You need to go to a, like an inpatient full hospital, like mental facility. And I think, again, just having like multiple people kind of review me and talk to me and them all making the same choice of, I need to go away somewhere.
The second evaluation, did you try to hold back a little bit, or were you at?
I think a little bit. I was like, was just scared because I didn't know what was next. Like I knew Milford Hospital. My mom works there.
Yeah.
Like she knew people. People were coming in to like visit, and my parents got to visit. But then I didn't know what was after that.
Right.
And Milford Hospital isn't a mental hospital.
No.
And so I had no clue what was, and I had all these preconceived notions again of like people in straitjackets and like like people who you like think of like from the movies and shows.
Yeah.
Like I was so scared to go in there. So yeah, talking to the doctor, I kind of held back a little bit, and they're like, if you're already here, they saw right through it, and they said your best course of action is to be somewhere that you're monitored 100%. And they said the meds could be a definite reason for these like real suicidal ideations and dark thoughts. So a place where I could be monitored by professionals 24/7 while tapering off of those meds. They think the best course of action was I need to be off any type of like mental health medication for a while till we figure things out.
Yeah. So what do you remember about that night? Like when it was quiet and you're supposed to be sleeping, were you exhausted and you fell asleep, or were you just terrified?
No, I was terrified. I don't remember sleeping. Like,
yeah.
And I remember feeling just so much like, I guess like guilt for my parents because I've never seen them that scared. And I was the one causing that. Like my mom stayed with me that night in the room. And I remember like looking over at her and like just being like, I can't imagine how she's feeling. Like this is like her baby who's basically like asking her, like telling her she wants to die.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I felt a lot of guilt for like what I was putting other people through. Yeah, just a lot of guilt.
And still angry with God?
Thanks. I don't remember like even praying to him. I think my mom prayed for me,
Of course.
obviously. But I could only have people pray for me. I couldn't pray to him myself. Like I think I was just so hardened to be like, again, I'm sitting in this, what seems like a jail cell in these paper scrubs and like,
Can't even have your blankets.
yeah, I can't have my baby blankets. And so, again, just everything that I was going through made me even more mad at God. Like, I think it kind of only got worse, like, throughout that time. Like, my distance from him and my...
Did you vocalize that at all, or were you, like, just sort of...
No, I think I would, like, obviously close my eyes, and when my mom was praying for me, I would say thank you and whatever, but I didn't feel... I think even while she was praying, still just feeling angry and being like... I don't even know if I believe the things that she's saying about how God is good and God will protect me. Like, I remember kind of just being like, you don't get it. You know, just like everybody who was praying for me, I'm like, but you don't feel how I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, it's important for if you have someone in your life who is going through feeling like that in their faith, to not just assume they're lost or that we can get to that point. And I think it's really biblical. It's a really hard place, but to not give up hope and to be like, well, they must not even be a Christian. Mm-hmm. That's not the case. It's just a really, really, really dark cave that you were in.
Yeah. And I think I'm so thankful my parents continued to keep praying out loud to me and talking to me about how God is sovereign, God will protect you.
Yeah.
Instead of like seeing like, oh, she doesn't want to talk. Like they didn't shy away from it just because I was angry.
Right.
They continued to push. And even people in the church, I remember my mom telling me, Nita is praying for you, and she would read out loud the prayers that Nita would send her. And, like, nobody gave up on me.
Right.
Not my parents, not anybody in the church who knew. And I'm really thankful for that, because I think if people were to just, like, kind of shy away from that, it would have even more distanced me from God. Because although I wasn't intentionally drawing close to him, people were doing everything in their power to keep reminding me that God was there. I'm really thankful for that.
And just knowing now how many people were praying for you. Mm-hmm. You know, they may not have reached out, but they were. They were praying for you. So, you know, it's another, I guess it's another case to be made for being in community. In your case, it wasn't really it was just it wasn't necessarily your choice. You didn't choose not to, but like it was just your life. But you have, you know, your parents' friends and your friends and, you know, family and everybody praying for you in that moment. Like, that's huge. Yeah. You know, you don't ever want to cash those chips in, but sometimes you need to. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes you don't even want to, but too bad.
Yeah, exactly. And that speaks for having a community of believers, for even when you fall away, like, or, you know, distance yourself, they will keep pushing you back. And if I didn't have that, I have no idea where I would be. Like, I'm sure I would just still be angry at God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was next? You went to a hospital. What was that like?
Yep, I was strapped down in a ambulance, like literally strapped down, and I was transported to it was like a mental hospital in Holyoke, Mira Vista. And
sounds like a
it was
resort.
Great. Yeah, looked nice. And I remember actually this was God, because for some reason, usually those have a very long wait list, mental facilities, especially for adolescents, because I was, you know, for kids, because kids are only put in there for mental reasons, but a lot of it that I learned was a lot of kids were in there for foster, behavioral, if a foster family didn't want somebody or had an issue, they would be sent there. Okay. So there was a long waiting list for a lot of these places, but for some reason, because of the time I went into the hospital and wherever, there was a spot open for me. And instead of having to wait at Milford and wait for help for days, like some people are in there for weeks waiting to be admitted, I was the next day transported. And like, I'm so thankful for that. because immediately I was able to start receiving help and treatment there. So I was transported there.
Do you ever feel, because we're pretty much in the exact time frame, does when like July roll around, is it like a little PTSD?
Yep. I think the first year I didn't realize I was so like, I remember I was going to VBS like the next year, the same time what I was
Yeah.
going to be doing, and like waking up feeling so horrible and so anxious and like these horrible feelings, and talking to my mom and being like, what is wrong? Like nothing is like nothing should be bothering me. And my mom being like, this is 1 year ago today, like
Right.
you were hospitalized. So it gets better. It's been like 3 years.
Yeah.
But there's definitely like, I still have some nightmares about being in there. And like, I know I needed to go there. And those people helped a lot, and the people I met were great. But there was a lot of things that I witnessed, and just being in there that do cause some, a little bit of trauma, a little bit of PTSD.
So what was it like? What kind, like when you first got there, did they have to evaluate you and all of that?
Yeah, I remember like being like stripped, searched. They had to search every part of my body, making sure, documenting every injury, cut I had. And there was quite a bit when I was going in there on my wrists and stuff. So yeah, they looked everywhere. Like just kind of took an evaluation, both mentally and physically, of like my situation.
Were you ever like, when they start asking you questions, be like, wow, it's weird how much they know? Like the stuff that maybe you did or thought are not all that unique? Like,
Yes. Like,
like,
there
oh,
was
you did that? Yep.
basically like 1 to 10 these thoughts, and it's like, how do you even know I was thinking these thoughts? And now you're having me like evaluate how much I was thinking them, or the severity of it, where it was like, these people they understand why I'm here, and they know how to help.
Yeah.
So that place was, I think, very good in a lot of ways. Like the people who were there to help the kids really wanted to help.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
But it was awful hard because you're there. It was not just girls, right? Boys and girls.
Yeah, and everything in between. There was quite the,
right.
it was a lot. And just people with conditions I had never had to interact with, and people with some severe mental health. Like I remember thinking like, I thought I was, suffering and bad. And then I look at some of these other kids who have been in there for months, and they don't have family. Like I remember feeling, it actually made me very grateful for the community I had, because my parents were allowed like visits every day. Like each person could come in for a certain amount of time, and there was kids with no family and no support. Like there was kids who didn't have any clothes. Like they were still in the hospital scrubs.
Yeah. Your parents were like bringing clothes for other kids.
Yep. Yeah. And I connected with, like, I remember my roommate Lisa was amazing. Like she was so sweet. Like she was in there for a different reason, and she didn't have any family, and she didn't have any clothes. And I remember telling my parents about this girl who was protecting me and teaching me kind of the ropes of the place. Because there's some things you got to figure out, and like, things that can make your stay either easier or harder. And so she kind of taught me that. And my parents were so grateful to her. They brought her clothes. I remember giving her the sweatshirts that I had in there once I left.
Yeah.
And like realizing that I was going through this, and like, although I felt alone, I was not compared to some of those people. And like the calls I would get, there was a wall phone that that people would take turns like calling their loved ones. And I received a lot of calls. Like I remember
Did you ever use the wall phone?
Oh, no, before then?
Yeah.
No. And like you'd have to say, it was, definitely a different experience. But like I got so many calls of people reaching out and just saying, again, I'm praying for you.
Yeah.
Which was huge.
Oh, man, what was, do you remember the lowest moment while you were there, or one of?
Yeah. There was a lot of them.
I would assume sort of the point, right?
But I think it was the first day, my first overnight, when my parents like had to leave.
Yeah.
And I was in the visiting room with my dad, and like I've seen my mom cry a lot. My mom and I are close. We talked about a lot of, she was the main person I went to when talking about mental health. But I was with my dad, and we were both so vulnerable in that moment. Like I obviously, and then he was just crying, and like I don't see that a lot from him, and
Right.
I like not a lot of dads, you know.
Yeah.
And just like I was so scared to sleep there alone and like to have my parents leave, and I felt like I totally alone. That's what I felt. And then seeing just my dad be so upset, again, I was like, a lot of guilt of like, what am I doing to my family? What am I doing to my parents where they have to leave their daughter here?
Yeah.
And not really know who's taking care of them. Like, I'm sure, I can't imagine how scared they were to leave their,
Yeah,
kid
'cause
there.
it's not like other things in life where you vet it and you're like, okay, you're going to this school or you're going to this camp or you're this friend. It's like, we don't really have a choice.
Yeah. Yep. I remember he wrote me a letter. Because obviously he's an English teacher, like he likes to write. And so that was his way of like expressing to me like how he felt and that he was praying for me. And I remember going back to my room like on the first night where I had to sleep there and reading it over and over. And he talked about just a lot of it was God, like prayers for me. And again, like I didn't want to face that. Like I didn't want to think about God. I was mad at him. I thought he hated me. But everybody in my life kept bringing him back and kept, I guess, telling me the truth of no, God is with you. He put you through this for a reason. So, yeah. But I remember feeling so alone. That's the most alone I've ever felt
That
my
first
entire
night.
life.
And was Lisa there already, your roommate? Yeah.
And she was good, and she made me laugh a lot. And she was definitely a, exciting personality. But that first night, we hadn't really connected yet. And I was still, like, the new kid. Like, it's kind of weird how it works when you, like, first come in. There's people who've been there.
It's like prison.
Yeah, literally. And, like, I remember when other kids would come in, I'd be like, yes, like, now I'm one of the, like, OGs. Like, one of the people who know their way around.
Yeah, because some people, because you stayed about a week, you said, of Holy. It was like 6 days or something like that.
So there was people who left and people who came and...
Anyone leave and come back while you were there?
No. Which is good. But... yeah, there was a lot of different people I met in there who some taught me things, some didn't. Like, some
Taught you good things, some taught you
me bad things. But I think I appreciate like everyone that was in there because we had a lot of group therapy. And just opening up and hearing about everybody's like very different struggles. Like I thought I was gonna come in there and everybody was gonna be there for suicidal ideations, but that was not the case. And it just like opened me up to a lot of different perspectives of like not only mental health, but like just, behavioral issues. Like I just learned a lot and it gave me a lot of empathy for people in there.
And did it slowly get better? Did it get better kind of very quickly as far as your suicidal thoughts, things like that?
Yeah, I think just being in there was a huge wake-up call for, like, what are you doing? Like, how did you get here? Like, I remember thinking, again, like, when they took my baby blankets away, I was like, I can't even be trusted with my, like, most precious, like, things. Like, and I did this to myself. Like, the actions, like, of self-harm and, trying to take my own life and all those things, like, that's the reason I'm in here. And so I think I wanted to make a change. And I don't remember, like, exactly what day that happened, like, when I was in the hospital and stuff, but, it was a huge wake-up call. And I wanted to get out of there. I remember we had our Cape vacation that next week, and I was like, I can't miss that. Like, I can't have how I've been feeling and the things I've been going through take me away from my favorite week of the year.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge motivation of like You're going to go to therapy, and you have to do certain things to be able to get
Check
out.
off the
You have
boxes,
to,
yeah.
yeah. So you have to attend a certain amount of group therapy. You have to separate therapy, all of those things, and they have to evaluate you. And I remember feeling so motivated.
You're like in line for every one of them.
Yes, I was like, thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Like I was good. But
Parole board's coming.
yeah, but
Do you remember anybody, whether they were a therapist or your roommate or someone on the outside, parent, anyone saying anything or perspective that like really changed things for you, or was it just kind of a combined thing?
I don't think while I was in there, nobody really said anything that like changed me. But I think coming out and basically going straight to the Cape and family vacation and being around people who I think,
not just your parents.
yeah, and people who love me and people who were scared for me. I remember like Pop coming in, and he knew where I was, like that I was there. Obviously he didn't know like the nitty gritty details, but him coming in and just trying to talk to me, and he was like, I know you're strong. He's like, you have a strong mind. And just like, I don't think he knew the words to say, but just him showing me like how much he loved me and like being around, I was like, I can't believe I would ever think to give this up. And that changed from when I was in it. There was a lot of, I don't care about anybody, whatever. If they're sad that I'm gone, that's their problem. At least I'm not suffering anymore. But that coming in after the hospitalization into the Cape, into such like a loving place, I realized like I could never do this to these people.
You know, it's amazing when we're talking about like God will never let us go through something he can't handle, and it's hard to understand how, because he's God, how does he do it? But when you even think about the specifics of his sovereignty, did he put the roommate that you had? Did he put all these different, and it's not just for you, it's for them too, right? It's not like everything is set up for Hannah or Jamie or anybody else, but that's what sovereignty is. It's like, it's like puzzle pieces. And I don't know how God does that, but he's God. And yet, and the fact that, and I remember thinking, it's really bad timing, not like selfishly, just like for you, like, you probably would rather have some time before you have to go out, which you would think, right? But like thinking about it, no, it was actually God's timing. You needed family and other people than just Sam and your parents. Probably they would have kept you kind of sequestered, for your own sanity, but you actually needed not necessarily to go to school and see everybody. It was summertime, but you needed that, but all the different pieces that he put together through that you're not seeing at the time.
100%. I think I needed to be taken out of my element. Like if I had to go right back into my room where a lot of it happened, the same bathroom, I think it would have been super triggering for me, and I don't know if I would have been able to recover as fast as I did when I got out of the hospital. Yeah.
So when do you feel like, not that you were better, because you're still, obviously we're never the side of heaven, but how long did it take you feel like I feel good? I don't feel like I'm in this quicksand anymore.
I think honestly after the hospital, I was really kind of snapped into like, I need to fix this and I need to be intentional about it. So I was still struggling like with those feelings and whatnot, but instead of letting myself fall into it and kind of being comfortable in those feelings, I pulled back. And so I started talking to my therapist more and talking to my parents more about it, instead of letting myself just wallow in kind of that depression.
What do you think the biggest thing that changed between wanting to wallow and wanting to fight it? Was it just the perspective, the reality check of everything, or?
Yeah, being in the hospital was a huge reality check, and then seeing my parents have to leave me there, it was like,
Imagine if they had to leave you in a cemetery.
exactly. And like the hurt I had already kind of caused them and the pain that they've had to go through already, like I didn't want to put them through anymore. And it wasn't just like I was fighting for them.
Yeah.
I was also fighting for myself. Like I wanted to make a better life. Like I didn't want to feel like this anymore. And so, yeah, I think the hospital was a huge reality check for me for that. Both wanting to fight for my parents and my family, but also just for myself.
When, and this might have been a gradual thing too, but when do you feel like your stance towards God began to soften?
That took a while. Yeah. That took the longest thing. Because I remember coming out of the hospital and almost being more hardened towards God.
Because you didn't see a lot of God in there, probably.
It was, the people, we didn't talk, weren't sitting around having
You
Bible
learn techniques to
studies.
help, but they're secular things.
Yes, and the people in there, the kids, did not, none of them grew up or talked about it at all, like grew up in any Christian home or had any faith, and a lot of it was almost making fun of God a little bit.
Yeah.
They weren't,
Yeah.
they kind of like me, like, I don't know if intentionally they blamed God because they didn't have like a foundation of
The idea
that.
of God was like,
But they were like, if this God is supposed to be so good, then why are we here? And so it made things a little worse coming out of it.
yeah.
Because although I wanted to like fight for myself, I didn't
really want to do it with God.
No, I didn't want to do it with God. I was still angry at him. And it was almost like, I'll show you. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I was so hardened towards him. And anytime like somebody would bring it up still, and like my mom, I remember being like, yeah, but like, how dare he put me through that? Like, I had to be strong for myself and all of that. And looking back, I'm so wrong. And I so wish in that time, I remember my parents, they gave me my Bible in there. They were able to give me some personal items.
Yeah.
And I didn't even take it out of like the nurse's station. I didn't want anything to do with it. And I think about it all the time. If I were to have just taken my Bible and opened it up, not even intentionally, but if I were to just let him in a little bit, what he could have done and how he could have strengthened my faith in there. But that's not how things went. And that's not my story. So I think, so all of that summer, I remember going to you, even being like, I don't understand how God will use this. I don't understand why he put me through that. And so many people, when I would talk about it, they would say, God put you through this for a reason. He will use this. He will use this. And I was like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. I did not believe any of that. But going into my sophomore year, there was a new girl in my grade who I obviously didn't know, but immediately I kind of caught on to some of the signs that I had also, resembled the year before. And I was able to connect with her and learn that she was going through pretty much the exact same thing that I was going through a couple months earlier. And I was able to help her and walk her through basically exactly what I was going through, how the hospitalization works, what they're going to do. And I was able to be I didn't have that. I didn't have anybody that knew what this was like, especially as a teenager.
Yeah.
And so
But it's going to be okay.
I think that God very quickly showed me, this is the reason you went through this. And that's not the only reason.
No.
But like
very
a
tangible.
month after,
Yeah.
he was like, look, this is, you
And
were
did
able
you
to
see
help
that
her.
at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember talking to my mom, going through it, and her being like, how I always told you God would use this for a reason, like, this is it. And I remember even without her realizing that and being like, this is definitely, for his good.
It's always been interesting to me because whatever the situation, so one of the things in counseling to tell people, and it helps. Sometimes you're so dark, it's hard. It helps maybe just a little bit. I know God has wired us to want to help other people, to want to be in community where we can serve and give, and sin has just destroyed that. So it's like a fight to do that, but it's in us that when we think, okay, if I can use this to help someone else, maybe it'll have been somewhat worth it, whether it be grief as a big one. Like, well, you're going through this, but you're gonna understand what someone else is going through in a way that nobody else can. And me as a pastor, I'm like, I'll try to counsel someone, but you will actually be able to help them. I've never lost a child. You have, that kind of stuff. And it's so true that's how it kind of worked for you.
Yeah.
As you were like, okay, this feels really good to be able to help someone else. It wasn't like you were just like, oh, I guess I'll help.
Yeah, it was, I was so glad. It made it all seem worth it. Whereas if I had to go through this horrible thing, but I can help her, and I've been able to help other people. That was a perfect example of somebody who, was going through the same thing. But
you pretty much, now that you have so much experience with it, you can kind of like picture how that person's cutting. Yeah.
Yep. And just people, not like everybody in my school knew or whatever, but certain people who knew,
maybe come to you.
They would be able to come to me about things. And I'm very grateful to be the person that people can come to.
Yeah. And now going off to college, it's bigger, more people, and it's public college. So not that kids at a small Christian school don't suffer from it. And you had friends in the public school as well, but it's probably going to open up to even more people that it might even almost be overwhelming at some point. There's all these people and they're all broken. What do I do, Yeah. But I think that's where you got to trust God. You can't solve everything and save everyone, but God will show you who, like that one friend, like who you're there to help, And going into college and just, I've had obviously other struggles like since then, not to that, degree, but knowing that if God can get me through that, the worst thing I've ever had to go through by far, I can make this transition to college, or I can do like things that I'm scared of and that do still cause me anxiety. If God can get me through that, he will get me through this, no matter what. And that's like, I'm able to have full confidence in that. Yeah, that's true. How could this be worse than that, There's some things worse, but not a long list. So when did you feel like you began to, like you may even mentioned snow camp, you were still feeling angry, which would have been winter following that. So a lot of your sophomore year now at this point, right? You're going through the motions, you're going to church, youth group and all of that, but just kind of still feeling, was it a slow thaw or was it any kind of event or something that?
I think it was slow. It was just kind of, I think, healing, going to therapy, talking to my therapist, like healing just from, the mental health aspects also helped me. And as I started to get better mentally, I was able to kind of see that, God was there. It was able to give me some clarity because when you're not drowning, you're able to see things a lot more clearly. So probably, a year after, like, I think my whole sophomore year, I still struggled with being angry and just with other things, like not being super happy and content. But probably that summer is when I really, like, felt like this was so worth, like, God, you got me through this, and like this was so worth it, and I'm so much happier. Are
there still times where you panic a little bit, like, oh, am I going back to feeling that way?
I get nervous. Yeah, I'm happy to say that those dark thoughts, the depression, those suicidal ideations, I have not felt in probably 2 years. Depression is not something that's really on my radar anymore. Anxiety is still a daily struggle. I know that will be probably for the rest of my life. But the depression is something I think God has taken away. And I know there can be things could come back. I know that.
Yeah.
But even not being on any medication anymore and stuff like that, I'm like happy to say I don't really struggle with that anymore. Obviously, I think going into college, that's a huge life transition. And I know that can come with some mental health issues, being away from family and a completely new people. And again, like going from a Christian school to a public school.
Even though you're probably excited about it, but you're going from a school where it's like 3 hallways that you grew up with since
Yeah.
kindergarten. And you're probably pumped to be like, oh man, it's been nice to broaden the horizons a little bit. It'll be a big transition.
Yeah. And so I know, like, I could fall back into that. But I have faith that if I know I can rely on God, and I do not ever hope to feel like that again, but to have the reassurance that I have a stronger faith and the knowledge that God puts you through things. And now that I'm older, and obviously I've gone through a hard trial, the more trials you go through, I think it just strengthens your trust in God and your faith. And so I'd love to see how I would handle something like that now with having
Let's
him.
do something different.
Yeah, like maybe not, but like
Yeah.
this
No, I know
transition
what
to
you mean.
college, like instead
right.
of pulling away, I'm gonna lean
Right.
in on God.
Yeah. You just got back from a missions trip and
Feel on fire. Yep.
you said which is not unlike you because of the anxiety, but you kind of studied up and listened to some of the Faith and Struggle podcasts, the typical questions, but and some of this you've already answered, but when you kind of look back on it, was there something or maybe a couple things that people either did or said that was really helpful versus maybe something that wasn't so helpful?
Yeah. I think something that wasn't so helpful throughout my entire mental health journey, not only when I was in the thick of it and like the depression, but also the anxiety of like sometimes it's okay that other help. Like I remember when I first told my parents about the anxiety, like a lot of it was like just read your Bible.
Yeah.
And that built up a little bit of not resentment, but because that didn't feel like it was working, and kind of having this like naive faith like at such a young age of like, if I ask for it, God will take it away, or if I read my Bible, like God will fix things. And it didn't get fixed, like that kind of set me up for being angry at God when things weren't going exactly how I wanted it. So yeah, like just being wary of like oversimplifying God, and just also like if your kid is, I understand like they're young and you don't want to burden them, but it's okay to talk to them about God putting trials in their life and God letting them go through hard times. Because I think if I had that foundation, it would have been
A little more expected.
yeah. But things God did throughout that, so much. I think the timing of everything was really good that we've already talked about. But
Was there anything people did or said that like that? I mean, obviously, like you mentioned your dad's letter, which I like. I mean, yeah, he's an English major, and regardless, sometimes it's just easier to write our feelings down. But you were able to read it. So if he had just said those things, you'd have just to remember what he said. But on paper, you could.
I can still look back on it.
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
see what he was telling me. But yeah, like the prayers people would send. Like I still remember some of the stuff Nita would send my mom in the prayers, and just like people never gave up on me. And like I think it's hard. Like a teen going through this, it's like, what are you supposed to say? How are you supposed to connect with them? Like, they're not, when you're older, it can be like, it's easier just to not say anything or kind of,
someone else deal with that.
yeah, let just their parents deal with it. Like, this is a family issue, but people in the church like came alongside. And I know not a lot of people knew, but the people who knew never strayed away. Like they were praying for me, they were praying for our family, and I've just never forgotten that. And like I'm always thankful.
Yeah, it's a variation of what almost everybody says: is just be there, and don't feel like you have to find the answer. Like whether you're as close as the spouse, best friend, or parent of the person going through it, where like you feel like I need to find the answers, or you're just more on the peripheral. Like you don't need to find the magic answer. Just let them know You care. You're praying. You're there. What do you need? And you may need nothing. There's nothing they can really say or do, but you know that they're there. You're not in it alone.
And that they're loved. Because
Yeah.
although I had a hard time thinking about the people who loved me when I was in it, there are people, a lot of people who the only reason they're here is for others, and that gets them through their short stint of depression of like, this is so hard and I don't want to do this, but I cannot, like, there's people who love me and people who need me. And so making sure people know they are loved, they are wanted, they are appreciated can really help somebody when they're in that dark time to, even if they really don't even want to fight for themselves, they'll fight for you or they'll fight for somebody else.
Which has to be, when you think about a lot of the kids who were in the hospital with you, they didn't have anyone. That's so hard, you know?
Yeah. And I saw how that helped me so much. And like, yeah, there was definitely a difference between how I felt and how the other kids felt who didn't have that community.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know. I remember thinking about it, especially back then, and talking about it with your parents, just wishing there was a better way, and maybe there is, that the church could enter into those spaces. A lot of times we're not allowed, which is just, you know, so backwards. But, you know, not to go in and start preaching, but just to, how can we help? What can we do to show that we love all of those kids, not just the one we know? But it's like you don't even know they exist unless you know somebody who's gone through it. And it's like, yeah, maybe that's part of this podcast too. If people have ideas, or just pray, like, what are the ways we can break through and just be servants and let kids like that, maybe they don't want to believe in God, but they'll realize, wow, these people really care. You know?
In places like that, God doesn't get talked about a lot.
Yeah.
And I think if he was, it would draw people so close, because these kids are at rock bottom.
Yeah.
They're looking for anything
Yeah.
to help them. And if, they were to learn about just the redemption and the love and the protection of God, I think things would change. And I know it's hard, infiltrating those spaces, but...
Yeah, maybe it's just even from a distance, can we provide clothing? And I don't know, you know? But I think it doesn't get even thought about. Not that people don't, maybe some grades you don't want to think about it, but it's just like you think about homeless people, and again, we should, but it's more in your face. People know, oh, homeless, we can go, or someone who's, you know, we go into Worcester, serve outreach, all that, but in hospitals, in prisons, but places like that are becoming overwhelmed. It's like, how can we love on people?
Yeah.
And let them feel the love of Christ through us. You know, it's gonna take that. It's gonna. Those are really, really good opportunities. They're just hard. So, what about someone who you obviously a month after helped a person, that girl in school? What will you say to someone, whether it's not exactly what's your story, but is feeling anything in that? I want to hurt myself. I don't want to, like, what do you tell them to do?
To find people, like find a community, and usually I'm the person to offer that. But it is so isolating, even if you have friends and whatever, but somebody who really knows what's going on, like, find that community so you can tell them the nitty gritty. I was lucky enough to have a friend who I could have told when the real dark stuff happened, and when I took all those meds, and I don't know, she was like, no, you have to throw up, you have to do this. And if I didn't have that, I probably wouldn't have. And to somebody who will fight for you. So if you're like somebody who's not afraid to tell your parents, I always tell people, like, I will tell your parents if I'm worried enough, because I love you and I need to keep you safe. And that's hard. That scares people. Like, I understand. You don't want your parents to know. You don't want to scare them. You don't want to disappoint them. But yeah, like, finding just if it's one person, somebody who knows, somebody to reach out. And then also, like what I say, like being out of it is time has healed me so much. Like a year later, I was still so struggling with everything and being angry and a lot of the nightmares. Like mostly what I was kind of mad at God afterward, because I had gone through that and everybody told me this was for good and this was to keep you safe. And then coming out of it, I'm having all these nightmares of like being terrified of being left and abandoned and whatever. And I was like, you are still making me go through this and still making me like struggle. So like I was like still dealt with that a year later, but telling people like you just have to keep going every day, one day at a time. Anything that keeps you to go through it, whatever you have to look forward to. Like mine was like, I have to see what I look like without my braces. Like it's the littlest stuff, but find something to just keep you going one day at a time. Because like once then you look back and you're 3 years out and you're
I have a lot to look forward to.
and you have so much, and you're like, I would have never been able to go on that missions trip, you know, and that has changed my life and has inspired me. And like telling people I am so glad I'm still here, and it was so worth it. Like I tell people it is worth it. As horrible as you feel, and though you feel like you're drowning and there's no way out, there will be, and there's one day you will look back and you'll be so happy you fought. And that's what I always like. That's how I feel exactly. So.
Yeah. And maybe if you do have a Bible, crack it open. Even
seriously.
If you're furious with God.
Yes.
You know, that's what we try to tell people. It's like God can handle it. Tell him you're angry. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like you're afraid you'll get less angry if you do that. You don't want that.
Exactly. There was some
God's
comfort.
going to be God, and
there was comfort about he was the person I could be angry at, and like it didn't, I could yell at him and blame him, and it's not like it's like your parent who can really talk back at you. And so instead of just leaning in, like I so wish, that's my biggest regret,
put the anger on Satan instead.
It's not cracking that Bible open when I was in there, because I think I would have grown immensely if I had done that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on and telling your story. Is there anything that you didn't say that you'd want people to know? You said a lot.
So yeah,
I want to make sure.
I hope that what I said gave people some insight on what mental health is like, especially when you're young, and that, God has definitely, I want to make it known that God has changed me, and he has worked in me so much since then, and my faith is so much stronger than it was, and now I'm able to rely on him through everything. So I am grateful for the experience, as much as it's hard.
Well, whatever it takes to, because it's really eternal realities, at stake, and it's like, well, if I had to go through that to make sure my faith was legit, it'll be worth it for eternity. Well, all right. Thanks so much, Hannah.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to seeing the next chapter. Hopefully it's not another chapter of faith in the struggle.
Seriously.
You can go on a podcast that's like Faith in the Awesomeness.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. And cut.